Every day in the pediatric world is a new day. It is not the same like the next day, like tomorrow, like next week, like last year. It is a new day. You will have new experiences. Even with the same child, a new experience will always occur. So don't ever think that all the teeth are the same.
I feel like if you bring your personal experiences, if you have kids or family members or whatnot, and you bring that into the conversation too, they kind of respect that more and will be open to listening to what you're trying to educate them on.
The kids make it so fun, and that level of expectation from a kid is just not there. They're not the patient's going to come in and be like, you didn't get that piece of stain off right there. That's not what you're going to get with pediatrics. And so going in to see kids every day was just something I looked forward to doing.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 265, our student roundtable for this month. My name is Andrew.
And this is Michelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. It's funny because we're obviously it's an audio podcast, but I love waving to you and trying to get a response at the get the go of these things.
It always confuses me.
So on the episode today, I just want to talk about, I'm really excited about it. It's pediatrics. Michelle, you've had 2 episodes on pediatrics that you've missed. And
shucks,
this is like an early birthday present for you. I've done my best to give you all of the things that you need in life, and avoiding those episodes is one of them.
I think whoever follows us on Instagram, I posted on Martin Luther King Day. I worked clinic. I usually would do a Wednesday, but I picked up this Monday because the other hygienist wanted off. And I walk in and Aaron, our office manager, was like, don't be upset. And I was like, what? I just figured it was I don't know, something really crazy, SRBs or something. I was like, what? She's like, you have kids today. And I was like, what are their ages? Are any of them bite wings? Because I keep telling people, I think anyone that's telling me that you can do bite wings on a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, it's a fairy tale. You're lying to me. It's a conspiracy theory, and I just don't trust you.
Oh, we had Anaika speak very specifically on that topic today, so that'll be interesting.
I can't wait to listen.
The thing I love about, we had an amazing panel. We had 4 panelists on this one, and it's just they have that assertive yet fun, playful, assertive, we're going to do this and you're going to love it and whatever. Anyways, I just was cracking up, but I thought that,
maybe I'll get some tips.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that so one thing also I want to talk to you about, Michelle, just before we recorded this, Allison and I went on another walk.
Oh yeah. Y'all walking a lot these days.
We are. And last week we talked a little bit about the fact that we're having a charity drive, a charity, not a contest, a charity fundraising event.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll call it a fundraising event. So essentially, I want to walk 1,000 miles this year. And that is on average about 3 miles every day. And it's going to be a lot of work. It's something that, Alice and I talked about it. We could maybe walk those miles during the day, at work and things like that. But we decided this has to go above and beyond what we're normally walking in a day. So we have to set dedicated times to make this happen. So we're really excited about it. But the way the fundraising is going to work is for each mile that we're walking, we are looking for you to sponsor each of those miles. $5 gets you a mile. You can pick whatever mile number you want. So if you wanted mile number 163, and you can just let us know, you can Venmo us $5. 100% of it goes to the charities. Now, the only thing that we're still looking for, and this is where we're going to need you guys' help, is, well, first of all, we're going to need people to buy the miles, but also we're going to need some charities. We have a couple of them that we love already, but we want to spread the wealth. And so if we're able to fundraise $5 for every of these 1,000 miles, that's going to be $5,000 that we're going to raise for hopefully a dental charity.
Oh, can I pick mine now?
Yeah. Who do you love?
Well, I want to give any dollars to Doors to Freedom, which is my local like Safeway or safe house, safe something transition home from women who've been sex trafficked.
Perfect. They're on the list. Look, the list is filling up fast. We only have maybe like 5 spots, maybe at the most. And Somos Amigos, of course, is going to be one of them.
I'm glad I got in on the one that our company is doing.
Well, we have 3 other spots open. So if you have suggestions, make sure you guys email us, Andrew at Hygienist, Michelle at Hygienist.com, and let us know.
Nice. I would piggyback on that exercise news that you just gave us, in that there is a Peloton RDH group on Facebook now.
Ooh.
And I think that's really super fun. I have a spin bike with the Peloton app. The downside to this group is that now I want a Peloton, and I'm a little upset about getting it second. But I've also made my efforts in the last 4 or 5 months is to only buy secondhand. So now I got to go find a Peloton secondhand.
Because if you find a secondhand, first of all, you don't have to have that wait time, right? Wasn't there a huge long wait time?
Oh, I don't know. Probably, though. That makes sense.
I could be wrong, but because, yeah, there were, I believe specifically Peloton was 4 or 5 months like back ordered.
Yeah. I couldn't find a dumbbell in the US to save my soul.
There's lots of dumbbells in the US, if you ask me, but such a dad joke.
It really was.
I've been killing it with dad jokes lately. Just killing it.
I feel so sad for your entire household.
Same. Absolutely.
Well, I'm excited to hear this pediatric roundtable. I can't wait to take some tips and tricks from everybody. So enjoy this episode.
So before we get into the roundtable, I just wanted to give a quick plug for Q Optics. Yes, they are sponsoring the show, but I also want to let you know how easy it was to work with them. We met with them in Chicago at one of the big conferences called Chicago Midwinter. And right there on the exhibit hall floor, they walked me through all of the necessary steps to be able to get really dialed in for a good pair of loupes. Now, I've always been skeptical of loupes, and my experience with Q Optics really changed my point of view on loupes. So if you're thinking about it and you have the ability in the program that you're in to have Q Optics come in, make sure you guys reach out. You won't be sorry. Now, on to the interview. Hello and welcome everyone to your student roundtable for February 2021. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time joining us on a student roundtable, let me tell you a little bit about how this is going to work. On the first Wednesday of every month, we bring on a panel of guests to speak directly to you, the student, to give you advice and points to ponder. We do our best to vary the topics each month, and because students have so many things on their plates, we generally try and get straight to the point. This month, in honor of National Children's Dental Health Month, we brought on a panel of professionals who have dealt with pediatrics for much of their careers. So let's meet our panelists. And we'll start with Anaika. If you'll tell us a little bit about yourself and your experiences in pediatrics.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anaika Forbes. I am a dental hygienist 15 years, and now I am the department chair of a dental assisting program and part-time adjunct professor. For the the last 10 years of my 15-year career, I spent it working in pediatric offices, private office, as well as public health. So I am excited to share whatever information you guys need to know.
You left out podcaster. Podcaster you should have led in with, I'm a podcaster. Everything else after this is a little bit important, but that's the most important.
Yes. And
I love podcasting.
I'm also the co-host of Dentalish podcast. That is true.
Love it. And Kelly and Natalie, returning guests of, if you listened to the episode last week, they're back. We couldn't get rid of them. They're just so good. Everyone loved them. Kelly, if you guys will introduce yourselves and your experiences.
Hi, I'm Natalie Hayward. I'm a dental hygienist, 10 years, going on 11 years. I work in a private practice, pediatrics, done mission trips throughout my career as well. Just love working with kids. And yeah, I'm here from Phoenix, Arizona.
Hello, everybody. I am Kelly Quolas. I have been in pediatric dentistry since 1996 as an assistant and a dental hygienist. I now currently own and practice myofunctional therapy solely. for the last 3 years, and I love working with kids. They're my jam, and it's grateful to be back on. Thank you.
Of course. Natalie, we're going to have you back on again for when we talk about our mission trips episodes and things like that, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So, I don't know. The dynamic duo, I don't know if we can split you guys up, but if we could for one time.
We've gone on them together. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have to both come back then. That's just the way it's going to be. Forever and always, you two will be paired. Brooke, welcome to the podcast. If you don't mind introducing yourself and your experiences.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I am Brooke Crouch. I've been a hygienist for 12 years, and I've worked private practice. In the last 5 years, I've been working in public health. I've worked for our state school-based program, working with pediatrics, and then now for a federally qualified health center. And I'm working in pediatrics and doing some medical and dental integration work. And I've worked with the certification with the National Network of Healthcare Hygienists. So I'm really happy to be here and talk with everyone.
Wow. Welcome, Brooke. Here's the thing. I love those introductions because every time I do this, I'm like, oh gosh, that'd be another episode we're going to do. We have FQHC stuff coming up. And Anaika, you got to come on multiple more times for all sorts of things. But because we need to keep this kind of clipping along, here we go. Question number 1. What opportunities are out there in pediatrics for dental hygienists?
I came right out of school working in pediatrics. And I know with my office, she was really adamant about having like hygiene and, assistant and doctor. But I know there's a lot of pediatric offices in Arizona that don't have a hygienist. So either the assistant will super gingival scale or what have you, and the doctor will finish. But I really feel like we are a key role in the dental practice because there's a lot more that we can offer than just like scaling a patient. So keep that in mind. Like when you go to interview at a pediatric office, you know what you're doing, like education, all that stuff. So
Natalie, let me actually, ask a follow-up question. Are these offices actually actively looking for hygienists, or are you needing to go in and kind of justify your position within the office and say, you need me?
When I was interviewing, I got lucky. As you know, last week I said I knew the doctor that I was interviewing with. But it was at that time I was only working part-time, so I wanted to get into another office, and I did call other pediatric offices and like, we don't have hygienists working here. And I was just like, really? Because I don't know how that can happen if you're doing like pro fees and all that kind of stuff. So, but the office I'm at is like, we have 2 hygienists all the time, temps when they need it. But, you just don't go in and be like, you need a hygienist. Like they either have the assistant do it or the doctor will do it. But you just have to kind of sell yourself and go in there and be like, I'm valuable to your practice. So don't keep it limited to just like periodontal practices, general offices, like pediatrics, we're a necessity to them as well. So
I feel like too, don't you guys think that, depending on like where you're going, where you live and where you're practicing, a lot of times your family practices can be pretty heavy with pediatrics. I know when I first started, I started at a family practice and it was small. So they were, kind of taking a lot of new patients on, and I started seeing a ton of kids right away. And I had no idea, to expect that. But, that's something that can be important to ask when you're interviewing or you're looking for like a new job is, what's your pediatric population like,
So I am here in New York. So we do not have EFDAs. So dental assistants are not expanded function. So they're not scaling or doing any coronal polishing. But I do know that private practices that are pediatric based, they absolutely want hygienists here in New York, because there are always multiple operatories. So if you have a pediatric office that you're lucky to interview for and get hired, you won't be like the only hygienist because we do churn them out here in New York. So I do think that the pediatric offices are always here in New York looking for dental hygienists. So like everyone else is in a different location. So it is based on where you are located. And when I first started, I was temping a lot, and I ended up temping in an office that was similar to what Brooke said, a family practice, and they had a lot of kids. And then when I ended up working in Staten Island, she was a multi-specialty, and I would just take all the kids. Like, just take them. Like, no, give them to me.
Right.
Like, nobody touches them.
Don't you just love them?
I do. I absolutely love pedo. And it just kind of became where I just ended up becoming the pediatric dental hygienist. Wasn't my role. I just kind of jumped in and did it. And we worked so well together that I would tell the pedodontist, like, this is what you need to do. This is how it is. This is what needs to happen. Because I feel the collaborative care with a pediatric hygienist and a pediatric dentist works way better than other specialties, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Well, I think it's really valuable when you build that bond with your dentist who you work with, right, and you can really kind of pinball off of each other. Hey, did you see this? Hey, doctor, did you see that? And I mean, that's a huge asset to that practice. And yeah, it does apply to general, but for pediatrics, it's the rapport and the collaboration, like you said. So yeah, I think it's so valuable.
I think that we talked about this a little bit last week, but in Washington, there's restorative dental hygienists, and we had Ann Moore on, I think, the last roundtable, and she did exclusively restorative for pediatrics. I know there's FQHCs, there's other government entities that are always looking for hygienists. There are medical centers that have like the well baby checks and things like that they are having hygienists working as well. There are just so many opportunities. But the thing I'm hearing from all of you, I love, is if this is your passion, or even if it's something that you think could be your passion, you do have to do a little bit of legwork. It's not going to necessarily always be handed to you, but you can make it your own. You can make it into something that you can be really successful in. And that is, for me, super exciting. Let's move on to question number 2. What is something that you wish you would have been taught in hygiene school that wasn't taught, or maybe just wasn't focused on enough?
Behavior management.
Oh, yeah.
Behavior management was not taught to me in hygiene school. They taught you certain things, but like behavior management is its own specialty when it comes to dealing with the pediatric population. And for the last, like I said, the 10 years that I worked solely in pedo, more than half of those years I had special needs population. So I had to do my own research, and I had to come up with my own plans and my own programs and things like that to help me deal with my special needs patients. And I got some of them to saying more than just grunting at me, to actually, completing full sentences that included my name, which is not an easy name. Anaika is not the easiest name you're going to come by. So that was kind of like a reward for me, that I was able to work with them and get them to, feel super comfortable. But behavior management was not in the curriculum.
Amen to that, by the way.
Yes, agreed.
I completely agree too. That's, I always think that we just don't get enough chances to see kids. Like, I wish we had more requirements in our hygiene programs for pediatric patients, because maybe we would get some more of that behavior management if we were required to see more. And then I also wonder, could our students look to their rotation sites as some opportunities to ask to see more kids? So like at my FQHC, when the students come through, and I talk with them, I'm always like, how's it going? Are you seeing many kids? And I think that could be a place where students could possibly, if they're interested, think about plugging in a little bit, is if they've got a rotation site that has peds or something like that. That's something that could help with some of that. Because maybe if we were seeing more kids, we would help with that behavior management like you're talking about.
I feel too like you have time management. Like with my program, we were so perio focused. Like you SRP and your, just your basic cleaning. But like with kids, 30-minute prophies is what's on the schedule for them. And I feel like time management with kids is not a priority in hygiene school. Behavior management, like you said, Anaika. In Arizona, we can do local anesthetic. So we didn't learn how to do local anesthetic for kids. It's a completely different ballgame than it is for adults. You don't have your traditional PSA and whatnot that you have to do. So that's another thing. It was when I graduated school, I went right into the pediatric office. And Kelly here taught me pretty much how to become a pediatric hygienist, because there was so much that I didn't know that I had to learn on the job and on my own, like you said, Anaika, and just kind of researching and watching her do that, watch the doctor do it, and so forth. So,
as an aside, I think mentorship and partnership collaboration with other hygienists is severely lacking in our profession, by the way.
Yes.
Yes. Supporting each other. Yes.
Oh yeah. Support.
Definitely.
Like, what does that even look like? I mean, geez, just knowing you
I
don't
know.
see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So number 3, I should have given you guys more of a heads up for this one. Has anyone ever felt like they were out of their depth? I shared a really terrible story last week about something that I had made a mistake on day 1. Thanks for rubbing it in again, Natalie, with the PSA thing. Okay.
No. Wasn't intentional.
I know, I was just kidding. But was there ever a time when you're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected, or I don't know how to handle this?
Well, I have a story. So like Anaika said, working with those special needs kids, it's a surprise every day of what's going to happen, how their behavior unfolds. It's not predictable. So I had a situation or a scenario where one of my special needs kids, we developed and implemented a protocol called happy visits. So you have them come in. I don't know. Have you guys heard that term before? I don't know how broad that term is.
So yeah, no, I know what you mean,
okay.
but we didn't call it happy visits.
So with the happy visits, you slowly get them. What the goal is that you have a successful prophy visit. And so with this one patient, age 8 or so, nonverbal, severely autistic, I had a scenario where I was expected at all costs to get inside this child's mouth. And she had already had a few of these happy visits. And as I approached her, tried to get on her level, she turned around and simply stomped on my foot as hard as she could. And so you become human in that sense as, ow, I'm hurting. And what am I doing here? So, in an instant, you're taken from your professional level to being a human, but also having that compassion for this child who has no awareness of what she's doing with her body, her emotions, and then their family who has to, go through this every day. So that was where I felt out of my element. And that was just one scenario. There's also multiple where I've gotten bit or hit or scratched. And so that's part of being a pediatric hygienist. And I know it can happen in all scenarios in general, but specifically when you work with kids, you're going to work with special needs. And so you take a step back and say, how can I handle this situation if it happens again a little bit better? So that's what I have to offer in that scenario there.
I think that's a really good example. I think that like working in a school-based setting, I've had scenarios come up before and it's always tricky because you're there on you don't have a doctor there. It's just you. And, in my case, it was just me and an assistant and there's no parents there. It can become really tricky. And, especially if there's a behavior issue. So it's kind of just like you're saying, it just kind of it takes you from your professional to your human level and and you really kind of need that experience too, to know how to handle that.
Yeah. And too, like just going through that, it puts you in a perspective of, okay, every time I enter the room and, you prepare your charts, and this is helpful too. You want to prepare your charts with those flags, no matter what software you're using, Dentrix, SoftDent. You want to prepare your chart with flags that's going to help you treat your patient. So be careful. Don't place your fingers in the mouth. Don't get your feet next to their feet. So you want to just set yourself up or your, fellow colleagues up for success. And so, yes, going through those experiences is going to make you a better clinician, but at the same time, you have to go through, just like in life, those lows to get those highs. So lots of fun there.
So my story is a little similar, but different. I'm always the hygienist when I was working in my, my private practice office, where if something needed to be done, I'm the person that's going to get it done. If I need to get an x-ray, if I need to get them to sit down, Anaika, I'm getting it done. Not a problem. It's either my demeanor that they're afraid of or my, it's okay. It's I'm either really, really up, like super excited with them, or I'm like, all right, enough is enough.
Pull your mom card.
Right. And it works. It works either one. I'm like, I'm not sure how other people don't have this, but I can go from 0 to 100 and I know which kid to do it with, except for one. I got the one kid where we used to do surgical cases. So he was maybe about 4 or 5. Full mouth restoration needed to happen. We needed to take x-rays. We were using the papoose. Oh man, this kid broke my heart. And I will never forget it, to the point where I started crying with everybody in the room. He just couldn't do it. And I've had patients who couldn't do it and we figured out another way, or we did another visit or whatever. This little boy, it was just not happening. And he wasn't screaming like someone was trying to murder him. I can't even describe what he was feeling that had every single person in that room wanting to just grab him and hold him and say, it's okay, you never have to do this ever again, it's fine. I've never. So you think that you've experienced it all and you can go, like I said, I can go from 0 to 100 and get it done. Every day in the pediatric world is a new day. It is not the same like the next day, like tomorrow, like next week, like last year. It is a new day. You will have new experiences. Even with the same child, a new experience will always occur. So don't ever think that all the teeth are the same. The teeth might be the same, but the behaviors are never the same.
I think that's why we like it, right?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
I love it.
It's always a new challenge. And, even those challenging kids, once you get it done, it's such a reward, though. When you can get them to take that x-ray or they lay in that chair and you prophy 4 teeth, it's such a rewarding feeling that you have that progress with them since you've been working with them so much, So I think that's another reason why I like working with kiddos, too.
It's rewarding.
I know you guys are all supposed to be the experts, but I do have a story about this my own self. Actually, I have multiple stories, but I'll try and keep it kind of short. So, you know what the hardest part from being out of my depth? I remember a time we did GA cases, also surgical cases, whatever you want to call them, general anesthesia cases. And there's different levels of the restorative hygienist. And I wasn't necessarily one of those ones that was like sizing crowns and doing all that kind of stuff. That wasn't what I was doing. But part of it was you go and you do the restorations. The doctor was doing a lot of the stainless steel crowns, but the doctor was kind of in and out a little bit. There's always somebody there, of course, like the anesthesiologist is always there. But I remember some of the tools that I had never used before, and I don't know the name of it still. And because it's an audio podcast, I won't be able to describe it very well. But essentially, it's like it's a mouth prop, but that you click multiple times to kind of open.
A
mold
prop.
Is that what it's called?
Is that what you guys?
Could be. It was kind of soft plastic that for the teeth, and then like it would just open up the whole thing.
Yeah.
That hurt me to my soul when I saw them using it. And I'm like, well, how do you know when enough is enough? Like, what? This kid's out. Like, what are you doing? What's going to happen? And then throat packs.
Oh, yeah.
Anaika, you said it, the papoose board. Like, look,
papoose. Right?
I am good with like restraining people. And of course, I'm a big guy. So everyone's like, okay, Andrew, go get that kid. I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw the kid in there and strap him down. Sorry, everyone. That's not really how it goes in pedos, but it's just
It kind of does.
It kind of does.
They do have a Hulk strength to them when they need to. They have this,
oh my gosh!
Especially if they're under sedation or something. It's like
they're fighting for their life.
30-pound kid, and he can overpower you. It's amazing.
Oh man!
So yeah,
yes, they can.
We had a behavior management code. If it took more than 2 assistants to help hold the person
called,
down,
WWE wrestling,
right?
People's elbow. Just kidding.
Right. So these are things that you don't expect to be like part of the job. And so I'm going in there, and of course, like I'm like, oh, what are all these things that are happening to these kids? The thing that took me the most off guard, though, was the apathy of some of these parents. You walk into a room, they have all these things, they're on their phone, they don't give a crap. Or, I mean, I don't know. There's just so many things. So I want to talk about parents for a quick second as we pivot to the next question. So how do you overcome some of the objections that parents have with things like fluoride varnish? And as a kind of follow up to that, what do you do if they're absolutely against the dental advice that's given them?
So educate is all that you can actually do as a clinician. You can't force anyone to do anything. And I always start my sentence with, this is your child. You gave birth to it, which I respect, but I am going to give you my professional opinion on XYZ. Like, you don't have to do anything. This is what should be done. This is what's recommended. Here is the literature. Here's the information. And if it gets to a point where it's, damaging, it's like 3 times no x-rays, we have them sign and then we can dismiss them from the practice.
Right.
If we feel that we're going to be negligible treating you and not getting the full picture, we're dismissing you. But I was never a force. Let me make sure you do this. We have no, here's the literature, here's the information, this is what you need to know. After a certain point, if you keep saying no, we will have to dismiss you from the practice. Thank God I've never been in a situation where I felt, I had to, the child's welfare was in danger, where, we had to call, social services or anything like that. I've never had to experience that, but I feel like if there was ever a point where, a child comes in and full mouth decay and the child looks malnourished and things like that, well, then of course, there's going to be more intervention than just, oh, you're not brushing this child's teeth. There is something else going on. So I've never had to deal with that in private practice. But I think when parents are just holding you up against the wall, there's absolutely no need to combat them. Give them the education. And when enough is enough, have them sign, dismiss them from the office. But sometimes, honestly, it's how you approach the situation. They don't have all the knowledge that you have. I never come from a point of all science. I come from a point where, because this is my personality, I keeps it real 100%. Just like that, how I talk to my patients. I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm going to keep it funky. Let me tell you what you need to know. And sometimes when you come off of your professional high horse and you meet them at their level, they get really comfortable and confident. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, oh, that's why I need to do that. That's why baby teeth are important. That's why da-da-da-da-da-da. When you start talking to them all sciencey based,
if they shut down, they're a wall.
You've lost them. So I've always been the professional where I meet you where you at. You at 2:00? All right, I'm going to be at 1:55. Here we are.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. Like, you can't talk to a stay-at-home mom and be all dental talk because it's going to go over their head. You have to bring that down to layman's terms and speak from experience too, because I feel like if you bring your personal experiences, if you have kids or family members or whatnot, and you bring that into the conversation too, they kind of respect that more and will be open to listening to what you're trying to educate them on about fluoride or sealants or x-rays, what have you. So any of the preventative measures.
Totally agree with Anaika with prevention, education in regards to come down off of your professional high horse and be a person, be a human, be a mom, be an auntie, and show them that you're coming from a place of care. Give them all the information they would need to make the proper decision for their child. And that's all we can do. Also, like you said, Anaika, you don't want to put yourself in a place where you're going to be combative. How fun is that? So, if that's the scenario it's heading towards, just step away and, you did your best. You're not going to win everybody over. Not everybody's going to agree with the recommendations, and that's okay. That's okay.
And then just make sure you chart, right in the chart, exactly document everything that was said between you and that parent. So in 3 weeks when that kiddo's tooth abscesses, or they come back in 6 months with 4 quads of decay, like you told them, like, hey, I recommended this at last visit and you denied it. So just chart.
And I completely agree with all of that too. And I think that if we can acknowledge, like, I get your concern here, but and just like you were saying, Anaika, and just kind of educate them as best as we can, but also do our best to not scare them off either. We don't want them to be like, oh, I'm not taking them back for their recall appointments because they're just going to, So I think that I completely agree with all that you guys are saying.
Brooke, let me ask you a question though, because you and I were talking a little bit before we started, and I wanted to ask your thoughts on behavior of children with the parents either around or not around.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting because, like I was saying, I used to see a lot of kids in private practice, and that practice, the parents pretty much always came back and would be back in the room with us. But in our school-based program, when I was seeing kids, parents were never there. It's night and day. It really seemed to be night and day when parents were there or they weren't. And that could be a good and bad thing. For a school-based program, parents not there, you just have to always be cognizant of documenting anything that goes on or anything like that. But the behavior was totally different, I think, when parents are around. And I think with school-based care too, when they're being treated at their school, it's different. It's like that fear factor isn't the same as it is when they're coming to the dental office. But I know for me, it was a total difference whether parents were around or they weren't.
Well, I mean, were they better or worse when the parents were around?
they were worse in my experience. If the parents were, they seem to be better. They were better if the parents weren't there.
Yes.
In my experience. Yeah.
It's like,
also my experience.
Mom and dad's not in the room.
Yes. Yeah.
So like with the school-based program, so I have a different perspective, because when I was working in private practice, it was in a predominantly wealthy private practice. So the kids there just had attitudes that I really didn't understand. Right. I'm like, my mother would beat me 7 ways from Sunday if I even looked at her this way.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm in an alien world. But when I worked at the school-based, when I was doing public health in a school-based program, it was minority and, impoverished patients. And the level of fear that they had was a different level of fear from the population that were at the private practice. And when I mean different level of fear, like they'd never experienced dentistry before. They never experienced anything like this before. So they didn't know how to process this. Whereas, the patients that I worked with in a private practice, they've seen books, they've read books about dentistry, and, they've been to doctors, and they probably went with their mom or whatever the case is. So they had a little bit more knowledge of something, that this is some type of medical something, right? There was some kind of knowledge. Whereas the school-based program that I worked with, very little of them did they even know that brushing your teeth was a thing to do. So the level of fear was just a different type of fear. So I don't even know if parents would have even come into play, if it would have made a difference. I just think because they didn't have the knowledge, it was hard to do like all of the preventive measures we had to do. Sometimes it just ended up being a toothbrush prophy just to introduce to them a toothbrush.
That's such a good point. And it's very similar in my situation as well. And that's a really good point to make.
Any other thoughts on parents, anyone?
We could go on for days.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Okay.
We've had experience. We've had experience with where our practice is, or Natalie's still there, some celebrities. And so being knee to knee with a pretty well-known actor and giving his child local, like, how do I do this?
Right? So you just, I guess like you have to try and shut that off. Like we have a lot of like sports people and, that kind of stuff. And I guess just treat them like any other parent. Don't treat them on a higher level. Yeah. Just like when you have a physician or another fellow dentist that is the parent, it's like maybe your terminology when you're talking to them is a little different, but I try to keep them at that same level, because at the end of the day, they're just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. They just have a title behind their name. So you just have to kind of not be too overwhelmed in those situations. Right. And it's hard at first, but then you'll learn to do it. So.
All right. Here's an interesting one. We're going to start with the pros of working with kids, but I'm really interested in the cons. Let's start with the pro. Let's start with the happy stuff. What is like some of the best parts about working in pediatrics?
I just think that kids overall, like every child is different. So you get a different experience. You get just random, like I had this kiddo the other day, he's 8, and he was telling me about the Bermuda Triangle, and he was speaking to me in Spanish, and he's in a Spanish immersion program. I learned from him. And so like every kiddo is a different personality, and being in my office for so long, I know a lot of these kids, or their families at least. And it's so fun just to kind of interact with them. Just from a 5-year-old to a 15-year-old, and just learning about their day and what their interests are. And just, that's just rewarding to me. Just not even the dental stuff, just like about their lives, seeing them grow up, I guess. So
same. No, it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. I did, like I said, I have many years experience, but I did do a little bit of perio on the side. It's just not as rewarding as working with kids. And like Natalie said, you see them grow up, you build a bond, relationship, you build trust. You can also intervene in these prevention habits early on, as opposed to getting them when they're 20 and 30 and what are you going to change about me now? So you get to intervene a lot early. I always think of my past at my pediatric dentist that really influenced my experience, and like, I'm going to be a memory to these kids. And so I want to make this the best memory they can. So for me, that part of it is super rewarding.
Are you guys all just waiting for the cons? I mean, what's going on here?
My pros are the same. I definitely build relationships with all of my patients. Like all of my patients, we ended up being like, I have a Google Voice number. So we ended up being text message buddies. And I literally would text some of them and I'm like, did you brush this morning? Did you floss? Like, what are you doing? Or I had them where I knew their whole life story. So I see them next time. I'm like, so how did it work out with that girl with the red hair? Like,
Right?
the whole entire life story, because kids are more fun than adults. Like they're better. Like kids are way better than adults. Like adults suck when you're at the dental office. They're not, they're all drained from their whole life. And I'm like, ugh, you draining my energy too? Like, I'm sorry you work at Wall Street and you're a financial analyst and you have all these numbers. You're draining me. So kids don't drain me. And I also have an up personality. So I'm always on 100. So adults bring me down to 10. And I'm like, you making me tired. I want to go home. I don't want to be here all day. The cons of working with children. Number one con is the parent. That's the number one con. The parent who stands over their child and goes, that doesn't hurt. Why? Where did you get the H word from? Like, why? Now you put that in the kid's head and now this is all they know. Why?
Or if I have to give them local, it's just a shot. Just lay there and take it. And I'm like, say the we don't use the S word here. It's like, come on, lady.
Yes.
Like, you know?
Yep. So. And then my second con is 5-year-old throw up and 15-year-old throw up are not the same throw up.
No, they're not.
Oh, I could do throw up all day. I'm so desensitized to throw up. So
yeah.
Oh, no, not me. 15-year-old throw up is very different from 5-year-old throw up. And I've had 15-year-old throw up on me and it's not what I want.
So like one's cute and the other one's not as cute, huh?
One smells different than the other. Like they both smell, but one smells a little bit more putrid.
And this is pediatrics for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like it's breakfast throw up or lunch. So In-N-Out or chocolate donuts and orange.
Oh my God.
Because those have both been thrown up on me.
Yeah, so
a bag of hot Cheetos that hasn't been digested that you catch in your hand.
Yes.
And you're like,
or that too.
You ate hot Cheetos because I can smell hot Cheetos, literally.
Yeah, it's the different levels of throw up for me that is a con, because I'm like, why did you feed your kid pancakes, bacon, eggs, and cereal?
Right before a dental visit.
Like,
with nitrous.
Exactly.
Did you think we were gonna bury him? Like, this is his last meal? He walking down a plank? Oh. So that it's a throw up for me.
True. Yeah.
It got to the point where we even used to put plastic baggies on the throw up kids.
Oh.
So we had like headrest covers. So we would put the bib and then put the headrest cover right up under the bib. So if you catch it.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, we put the headrest cover, catch it, because it got to a point where it just became too much. Ooh.
I've gotten urinated on. Because, like I said, we do the local anesthetic, so that like the oral conscious sedation patients that we're going in to do local anesthetic on before the doctor comes in. You're under the chair, and all of a sudden you just feel this drip in your shoe, and it's like, okay. So yeah, we try and put like some type of barrier underneath the longer cases, But yeah, that's another just an occupational hazard that we have as pediatric hygienists.
Oh, ergonomics is a con too.
Yeah.
Ergonomics. There is none.
Yes. So students, all of the clock positions that you learn, you will not be using ever in pediatric practice.
That is correct.
FYI.
What clock?
Yeah.
What time is it? We don't know.
So.
Oh, these poor students listening to this. That was a bad question. I did not.
But it's so fun, though. It's so fun. It's so fun.
It is fun. That's the thing, too. Well, we had a puke bonus. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but like if you got thrown up, if you had to clean up, throw up, you got paid a little extra. And then I remember one time.
Maybe millionaire,
right?
Yeah.
You know how many times I've been thrown up on?
It wasn't like thrown up on me, but because we had 3 chairs every hour. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But I remember in one paycheck, I had 2 puke bonuses. And they're like, what are you doing to these kids? What are you? Well, I'm like, I didn't do it. I was barely even in the room. And then it just happened while I was there.
I could have been a millionaire by now. Like I could be raking in the dough with the amount of throw up I've experienced in 15 years. Oh man. Working at the wrong places.
Oh my gosh.
We need to implement that, ladies.
Right.
We should.
Bring that up to my doctor.
Thanks, Andrew.
On Monday.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Look, we need to wrap this up, and I love wrapping it up on puke and urine stories. But no, like for real, though, I would love, let's go around one time. We'll start with Brooke. Your best advice for students, because I feel like there's so much that they need to understand, so much things that they could possibly do with, like, they're just forming opinions at this point. Well, what advice could you give to them as they're forming these opinions?
I mean, I think that pediatrics is a great place to be. I'm starting out with like a family practice too. If you're just trying to figure it out, is a really good way to kind of get your feet wet with it, to figure out what you're interested in. Just like everybody else was saying, I mean, the pros, it's such rewarding work. I mean, it's truly rewarding work, and the kids make it so fun. And that level of like expectation from a kid is just not there. Like they're not the patient's going to come in and be like, you didn't get that piece of stain off right there. You know, that's not what you're going to get with pediatrics. And so going in to see kids every day was just something I looked forward to doing. So it's really something to consider, whether it be looking into pediatrics or starting with family dentistry, to kind of get your feet wet. But pediatrics is definitely something I would consider doing.
I would say just remember that every day is a learning experience. You're not going to come out of hygiene school knowing everything, even though we feel like we should, because it's such a grueling program. I learn something every day, even 10 years later. And I'm sure, hopefully, ladies, you guys do too. So just keep that in mind. Every day is going to be a learning experience. You're going to come across situations that you don't know what to do, or scenarios that you haven't been in or been even taught about. So just remember, just be an open book and just take all that knowledge in.
My advice is temp and get your feet wet in different places. Never settle for one thing straight out of school. Temp, figure out what works for you, because you may like half day pedo and half day adult. Like you might need, like after lunch, you might be like, okay, I can't with the energy anymore. So you need to figure out what works for you. And then pediatric offices have different hours than some adult practices. It's 9 to 5 doesn't always work for pedo offices. So I say temp, get your feet wet, temp in all kinds of different practices until you figure out exactly what you want, where you want to be placed, what kind of population you want to serve. Because honestly, pediatric populations vary. You might have underprivileged minority patients. That's a different ballgame. You have to treat them differently. And if you have privileged patients that are pediatric, that's also different than the same population. So temp around. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Feel it out a little bit, 6 months, 1 year, however long you think you need, until you find okay, I know who I want to serve and I know where I want to serve. And that I think would be the best bet for you.
Yeah, great advice. So my advice is don't be intimidated. Know that you know more. You always will know more, unless they're a fellow dental professional. You will always know more than that parent, so don't let them intimidate you. And, if you have a super love for kids and working with kids, get in there and get your feet wet and really just see if this is something you or where you want to be. And, don't be afraid to learn, and don't be afraid of, the surprises that unfold day by day. So that's my advice.
I love it. Students, I hope you really learned something amazing here in this episode. I hope you find what you're looking for, take some of this advice, apply it. I think that you'll do very well. If you have questions, please contact any one of these professionals. How might a student contact you?
So this is Anaika. You guys are free to contact me via email. So it's ANAIKA, R as in Robert, D as in dog, H as in hockey, @gmail.com. And I am also the person who runs the podcast.dentalish Instagram page. So feel free to shoot us a message on there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, reach out to you guys, whatever you need.
And you can contact Kelly and Natalie, and you can just forward any messages or anything you need at Kelly, Kelley at MyMyoMyHealth. And my business website is MyMyoMyHealth, also my Instagram and Facebook handle.
And for me, you can contact me through email, and it is Brooke Crouch, dentalconsulting@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. Have a good night.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye, guys.
Well, another great week, another great episode. We thank you all so much for listening each week. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, whatever podcasting app you're using. Also, just a reminder, our guests are so fantastic that they love when you reach out. They love when you interact with them on social media. And you can interact with us on social media as well at Instagram or Facebook. We're also on LinkedIn. You can find us at A Tale of Two Hygienists. You can also go to our website, ataleoftwohygienists.com. And we would love for you to go there and subscribe for our newsletter. We have lots of stuff on our website. We have a learning center. You can search for any episode. This is an easy place for you to find the links for our CE courses and take the test. There's just so much more there. So head over to ataleoftwohygienists.com. And if you want, you can also send us an email. I'm Michelle at ataleoftwohygienists.com. And then there's Andrew, who is Andrew at ataleoftwohygienists.com. And we just want to say thank you so much. If you love this episode and you're loving the podcast, we would love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. And, 5-star, go ahead and do it. 5-star, just hit that 5-star and then leave us a review. We really appreciate it. We love reading them. It fuels our fire, and we just appreciate you guys so much. I think that's it, Andrew. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye, y'all.